Hello. Let's give it a second. What's going on, guys? It is Wednesday, December 18th. This is Listen for Commands. Just a quick disclaimer for all the people who usually tune in. This particular episode is going to be about the state of powerlifting in Illinois, the history, and going forward. It's going to be probably a pretty interesting episode if you're really into powerlifting. But just know when it's not going to be our traditional episode where we talk about like current events in powerlifting. We may do r/powerlifting though at the end. We'll see what everyone wants to do. So I'm going to invite Kevin in here. Hello.
What's up?
That's good. So I wanted to do an episode about Illinois with all the Illinois meet directors and future meet directors, and kind of just talk about what we want to do, what the future is going to be. Right now I do a lot of the vision boarding, but I really don't want to do that. I would like it to be more of a collaborative thing. I don't like, aside from like the state meet, which I feel like obviously requires a lot more stuff. I'd like to like kind of spread things out a lot more than they currently are. But everyone needs to kind of jump over to the PA side before we do that. Q Harris? We're good? All right, I think Wayland's just trying to get some things together. So, once we get him in here, we can continue. Because what I wanted to do first is I kind of want to go back. I want to pull the time machine lever, and I want to talk about like kind of when everything kind of took off, like in 2022. But anyway, I guess we'll talk about how was the Minnesota meet? You want to continue along those lines until we get him back?
It was good. The Minnesota meet, it essentially was a collaboration between Topset Media, Strength Through Cinema, and obviously Powerlifting America. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So honestly, even though it was just a local meet, I think they did an excellent job in being able to kind of showcase all of the athletes, the talent that was there. Even though it wasn't a meet like Raleigh, obviously, or like a nationals or anything like that, it still showcased a lot of what the local talent had. Go ahead.
What's up?
Go ahead, Waylon.
Two of you.
Yeah, I was having some trouble with my lifting account, but I was able to run with this fighting account, so that works out really well.
All right, I guess. I mean, we're gonna probably upload this, and there's there's a dedicated. That's funny. That's hilarious. Someone's gonna meme that for sure. But go ahead, Kevin. Finish it. We're finishing up. Kevin had his meet this weekend, so we were finishing up on that.
Yeah, so it really showcased a lot of like what the local talent had to offer, which honestly, they did a really, really great job in being able to kind of just fire out content as soon as the meet was happening, right? So, I mean, if you were to keep up with Topset Media and Strength Through Cinema, like their Instagram pages, you'd immediately know like how the sessions were going, who was winning best lifter, like how the progression of the meet was going along. And I think that's one of the elements they did really well in being able to kind of just, if you're not tuning into the live stream, at least being able to go on Instagram and seeing, oh, how's this meet doing? How's this meet going along? And just kind of keep tabs on like how these competitions are going. So imagine that on a full scale without having to toggle through the different live streams, being able to kind of just go on Instagram and seeing, oh, like this meet is going this far, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I saw your picture of you throwing your belt, like during the meet. Like
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. I'm like, oh, that's Kevin. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's Kevin. Because me and Waylon were both at. Waylon competed this weekend too. I was directing that meet. But yeah, that's great. I mean, obviously, that's something we want to all do. Is sports are consumed a lot differently now. Like on an NFL Sunday, I watch through my Instagram feed. You know, I watch the games obviously live, but like we're in a new world. Information travels faster. It's different. So I definitely think that's gonna be a future thing. So Waylon, how was your meet? Did you you seem like you had a good time? You didn't have to worry about it too much, right?
Yeah, obviously, it was a good for me to have. I was done convention in almost a year at a meet. It's good to be in an atmosphere where you didn't have to worry about the play. It was everyone, y'all wanted to staff on top of it, and it was good. I see all the friends there, lots of new. I think in politics, winning sport for so long, all the time. But it was a meet where there was lots of familiar faces, and it's good to see that being a different federation now, and being a different venue, you get to meet different types of people, and those the target audience want to bring in new audience so they can continue growing the sport.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize how many repeat casual lifters I had. I think this was the first time that we kind of cycled through the calendar. So this was my first calendar year with PA. There were so many. My favorite is John Valpatek. He's the old guy. He doesn't meet every quarter, and it's like it is cool to see those like classic people. Some guy did a Reddit write up on the meet, and he's like, "Yeah, all these guys I recognize. I see them at every meet," and so that was really cool to kind of see the. I mean, the community's circling back on. Yes, John is the GOAT. I actually talked to him today. But yeah, it's feeling more and more. I'm the one who fractured the community, so I feel kind of guilty for it because we kind of lost that when I moved to PA. And we kind of like literally split right in half, and so it is good to kind of see that come back. So I'm happy to see that and happy to kind of talk about that a little. But right now I want to kind of pull the time machine, the lever on the time machine. I want to talk about kind of back where this all started. This is kind of really morphed and evolved. And I don't want to say that Barbells and Barbecue was the start of it, but it really is that everything kind of moved out of that because everything was at B&W before that. And we all know, like, you know, grateful for B&W for keeping things together for a while, but also, I mean, we have to be honest, they kind of held things back in a sense. Like now we have, I mean, every meet that's ran in the Chicagoland area is better than those meets. Every single one. There's no question. Like there's like, no matter who's running it, they're all better. And so I think it was good that we finally were able to get the meets out of there. You can't do it. You respect Dennis for everything he did, but it was time to move on to bigger and not just how about bare minimum type things. Kevin, were you at the first Barbells and Barbecue?
I attended. Yeah, I was there.
Okay.
The one at the
old
FBG, right, in Plainfield.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's kind of like the anchor point for this because I want to go through like basically all the meets that have had, like not all of them, but the one that you directed. I kind of talk about how things have evolved. So Barbells and Barbecue was my first crack at a meet. Actually, technically, Dave Wilkie was the meet director. I still take credit for it because we all contributed. We all were directors, basically. But me and Michael Colatapetro collaborated on doing that meet. That was I have the USAPL database open so I can do all these. I believe there was a 120 lifter meet, 2 days. Oh, it ended up being 103 after drops. That was still back when we were doing 60 lifter, 4 flight. Illegal. That should be illegal. That should be against any federation rule. You should not be allowed to do a session with more than 30 lifters. We're done with that, right? Like, we're not doing. Everyone agrees. Like, I think I did the math. I think 36 is the most. Like the apps, and that's like you don't want people to not be able to do a meet, right? You do want to let kind of people get in if they want to get in, but like 36, like we were all agreement, right? We just can't do that. It's just. I mean, you hear the horror stories of 8 and 9 hour meets, and I didn't even know sessions were an option. Like I didn't even know that was a thing. So I thankfully I think we're done with that. I don't think I think everyone, like, I understand if you're tested to do that because you need more referees, right? It's a 2-hour weigh-in, so you need like 2 more referees. So I understand like you may have staffing problems and that's maybe why you can't do it. But like people on the untested side want to do that. And it's like, you guys have a 24-hour weigh-in. Why can't you do 2 sessions? That doesn't make any sense. Any thoughts on that from you guys?
So, in my opinion, last weekend was probably one of the fastest meet I've attended as a lifter. Usually, after you squat, you wait like 2-3 hours before you bench again and before you deadlift. And that day, all I had was like 300 milligrams of caffeine, and I thought really well run. After finish squatting, you get ready for your general mobility and then get hard for bench. I think it was really well meet. It felt like I was a professional meet, even though it's local. I don't think meet should take that long. And like it is a burden for family too, like especially the ones that have to drive 1, 2, 3 hours. And so it was good for family. It was like it had boring, but it got boring. Like a lot of times you go do full flex of squat, your family members might get bored and it's like go get lunch during bench. But it was a really well meet, and I think that taking with 36 people or less than that, uh, very consumable and not make it like a long day for people. It's like trying to host a squat, bench, and deadlift seminar all at once. We're trying to host a squat seminar that might take an hour and a half, trying to drag on for the whole day and lose interest. It gets really hard to stay awake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's just Kevin. Do you want to jump on that?
yeah, I was gonna say. So my first meet was at BMW. It was in 2019 in March. It was a Windy City Open, and so for there, right, I saw the transition from when meets used to be 4, even almost up to like 5 flights, right, at a time. And then you'd run into meets extending over like 8, 9 hours, right? And so I've noticed that like for me, right, like my first experience of like actually having a smaller flight was only nationals at the time, right? It was only when I competed at 2019 Raw Nats, right, where I had like 2 flights. And so there was like, okay, it's a really fast paced meet because you had good spotters and loaders. And then since that, right, we start seeing the transition of meet directors start kind of sectioning it off because one, it's not spectator friendly if you're having a meet that's 4, 3, 6, as more than 2 flights, right, at a time. And I guess we'll be running in circles just kind of talking about this because we already know like kind of how that transition happened.
Yeah. So I guess what I do want to talk about, I want to talk about. Yeah, right. We will be talking in circles. We all agree we want shorter sessions. The discussion point now is between, is it 24 lifters in a session or is it 30 lifters in a session? That's the discussion. It's like do we want so like a 30 lifter session versus a 24 lifter session is about an extra 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so the discussion, and that part of what I wanted to have you guys on to talk about, because I don't really care. It doesn't do anything for me either way. Do we want to run these smaller meets which don't have, you're not gonna have if you have a 24 lifter meet, the crowd is not going to be crazy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're just not going to have that many spectators to watch 20 lifters. Or do we want to go a little bigger where the meet's a little longer and we have a little bit bigger crowd? The poll I ran was like unanimous. People wanted like a little bigger session. So I guess that's where the discussion's at. We're not talking about the difference between 30 and 60 lifters. We're talking about a smaller difference. So I wonder what you guys may think about that particular.
I guess when you have a small, like in theory, right? If we're talking in theory, if you have a smaller, like if we're talking on the very short end, like if you like 10 to 12 lifters, is that kind of what you're referring to? Like on the smaller end?
So in a local meet, one session is going to be somewhere between 24
like per flight, right?
36. No, per flight 12.
12. Okay.
But like the flight sizes can kind of change depending on, if you have 30 lifters, you're doing 3 flights of 10, right? That's kind of like a game, and it's going to be anywhere between 9 and 12. That's I'm talking about the session overall because that's kind of what you're actually working with.
I think if you have on the smaller end, right, if you have these smaller flights and just a shorter session overall, you run the risk of on actual meet day, right, like if you have dropouts, if you have people not showing up, right, having a not so good of an experience for lifters if they have to move at a pace that they're not used to in training, right? So for instance, I think my past experience this weekend was a really good example. My flight was actually 7 lifters at the Minnesota meet. So for that, in that case, right, so that was not due to any of the meet directors or anything like that. We just had an unusual amount of dropouts and just people not showing up, right? So in that case, that experience that is delivered to the lifters isn't as ideal as you would have as a 12 lifter flight, right? So I guess that's the risk you run into as a meet director if you're running these 30 lifter sessions, three flights of 10 lifters, right? If you have 2 people that don't show up or like per flight or like on some extreme example, right? You run the risk of not having that good of a meet experience.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the rule is, but I believe if it's 8 or fewer lifters, you have to add you
have compensatory time that is added, right? But even on top of that, right, you're still, even if you have like for instance, for us, we had the Minnesota spotting and loading team, right? So that's a really, really fast team that's spotting and loading. So the turnaround between attempts is really fast. So even then, right, you're already moving at a quicker pace than what you're used to at a regular, normal local competition.
Yeah, I think that's obviously something to consider. I think obviously this is too big. This is too big picture beyond this meeting, but I think a minimum amount of time, like if we had a clock going, I think that wouldn't be the worst idea. If it's like, hey, you have to have a minimum of this much time between attempts. It's like 10 minutes or whatever. And then if it's past 10 minutes, you're going to be up when it comes up next. But if it's not past 10 minutes, we wait for that clock to go. I think that may be an interesting way to do things as well. That may not, obviously that would require a technical change, which we can suggest. But I think that's why I'm kind of leaning more towards that 30, because then I can do 2 flights of 15, which is a little too much, but like it gives you more options than really speed running people. Especially with our spotters and loaders getting really, really good now, which I'm very happy with. But yeah, it was good here. Anything, Waylon, you got anything on that?
Yeah, so obviously both of you guys make really great points. That tournament on so many meet divided into the issue of many dropouts. And Sebastian, you mentioned about how you can add more time so that they can have like 10 minutes, 12 minutes in between attempts. I think the issue with that is like the crowd might lose interest, right? During those like 3 minutes or extra 2 minutes that in between every lifter. It's hard. It's easy. Like for how powerlifting is structured now, it's hard to keep up with every person going, especially only there for your son, daughter, your niece, or your auntie, whoever it may be, and having that extra time might cause people to lose even more interest. Like, oh, why are we waiting here? With how many rules there is all of thing. I think something that we could try in the near future is like account for a 5 to 10% dropout. So no matter what happens, we always have a plan A and plan B, regardless it's 3 flights or 2 flights.
Yes. So as we were talking, I started thinking about that. The problem I've had is, one, it's near impossible to account for dropout rate. I mean, I had a meet where it was the October meet. I had 36 lifters signed up, and all 36 showed up. I did not expect that. That's never happened ever. And so I was like, I didn't panic, but I was like, okay, I guess we're just gonna do this how we scheduled it. And so it was almost weird that way. But I think just a minimum time. I think the IPF rulebook already has that. I think lifters just need to know, like, do you really need more than, I mean, listen, I'm a super heavy. I've only ever competed at super heavy. I always felt like I waited too long. I mean, I don't need 8 minutes between attempts. And I was doing like well into the 6, 7s. Like, I mean, I think the rules are plenty fine. I think lifters just maybe need to be prepared for that. But I think that also stems back to the history. So a lot of lifters are used to these really long sessions. Mm-hmm. And so when we do things, not necessarily the right way, when we do things kind of in a more normal way, people kind of lose it a little. I think that's just going to come with time. Like my meets we're never going to change the way we do, not never going to change, but we're going to keep doing things the way we've been doing them. And Kevin, you do things the same way, basically I do it. So, and I'm sure Waylon will too. So I think people just have to get used to how we do it.
Well, I mean, if we kind of like backtrack, right, and we look at the conversation we've been talking about, right, like we've had to adjust from having these very long sessions and then kind of scaling back down. So, I mean, as athletes, right, you are already adapting to these changes, right? So, I mean, just refining that process and making it very standardized as far as like, okay, like this, the amount of time to expect between your attempts, your session length and stuff like that makes it just more ideal, right? Because you're speeding up that process. So, I mean, maybe as an athlete, you might take a hit because you might have to compete like in a much faster pace. But as a spectator, as a meet director, you're getting quick through things a lot quicker.
Yep, totally agree. I'm trying to find the exact rule. Yeah, they're just talking about the break. Oh well. Anyway, I mean, we'll have to circle. I might have to write something up about that, but that's good. I'm gonna actually take notes on that. Like this is part content, and it's also part like a discussion about things because I'm here to start. I'm kind of past my lifting days. I really don't like. I don't care so much as a lifter. So what the decision I make is just what the people want. It's like my gym has all the equipment that I could possibly ever want. So at this point, if I'm adding equipment, it's suggestions of my members. My personal opinion doesn't. I mean, there might be some cool stuff I might like. If I'm adding anything, it's going to be a cool thing. It's going to be a laser show. It's going to be something I think is cool visually. I don't like technical wise. I want to hear what the lifters want. So like, if you have an opinion, like, make sure you fill out our surveys, basically. All right. Well, I'm glad we got that one out of the way quick. After the OG Barbells and Barbecue, this is where things went off the rails. I'll be 100% honest. This is where things started getting hairy. So, me and Michael Petro, following the success of Barbells and Barbecue, we wanted to sanction a meet in October. We wanted to do a Halloween themed meet at the original MPG. And so that meet was blocked by Dennis Brady because he had a meet around the same time frame as us. And this is where basically the beef started, me and Dennis Brady having beef. So what do you guys think about now, not like Kevin's you're a competing meet director. We kind of are in our own lanes. But like, what do you think about, like, I think PA does it really good where they kind of just let us do whatever the hell we want. But like, do you feel like that can negatively impact your meet when we have ones? Because like mine and your meets are like 2 weeks away from each other in October.
I think, I mean, I think there's a nice sweet spot between like just kind of letting everyone just do whatever they want and then also having some sort of structure, right? Because I mean, if you look at on the bigger scale, right? Like if you're looking at as a federation as a whole, right? They follow a sort of a season, right? So I feel like it's important for a local market to kind of emulate that season where it's like you're kind of respectful of the timelines of each other. And so yeah, obviously like you're spacing the meets apart far enough so that people can actually like have options instead of like competing back to back or having meet weekends be one top of the other, because obviously like staffing, right? Like
right.
That's also
We should never have meets on the same day. Like that I would always work around because we don't want to have an issue where we're ripping like staff from each other. Like that I would always switch my meet for those particular issues. We don't want to have that kind of stuff. But go ahead and continue.
But then also like there's also like an understanding of like how big your market actually is, right? Like how many lifters you actually have in your region to be able to kind of fill these meets up, right? So that's just a sweet spot that you kind of have to fill in between like wanting to host as many meets as you can and like realizing that, hey, like maybe we can't do as many meets as we thought we could have intended to actually host.
Yeah, I mean, I've trimmed my schedule. I've trimmed the fat of my schedule. Some meets are really great. Some meets don't perform that well. For example, like I probably won't be running a January meet anymore. It's just everyone wants to do the meet before Christmas. People don't want to do a meet after Christmas. So I'll probably just do the Power Express, and then January I'll just leave open. There's plenty of nationals and other stuff going on. I don't think people really want to maybe get into that zone. And then if the demand does grow, I can just put another one on the schedule. But like that, I got rid of my February meet because Kevin, you're running your meet. We don't need competing local meets in February. There's no reason for that. And then my August meet is done because I think are we teasing Weilin? Can we tease your meet? What's the?
So at 5:30 we've been really busy, occupied with our grand opening and but we are aiming to host a meet in the summer, and for that.
I can't wait. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be I'm not doing shit. I'll be drinking. I'll be cheering. I might hop on the mic, but I'm not doing anything. I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna have a good time. I'm excited. I'll help. I'm gonna be helping. It's Weilin's first meet. I'll be helping. Yeah, I'm super excited to not have to direct all the meets. I think we have a pretty kind of good schedule put together in terms of. I don't see the schedule changing much next year, and we'll kind of talk about that as we go. I canceled my August meet because he's going to be doing a meet in the August time frame. So I've been able to kind of, like Kevin was saying, trim my schedule down. The demand for the meets wasn't there. I do imagine that the demand will go up in 2026. I mean, what's your guys? Is USAPL still going to be around? Are people still going to want to do USAPL in 2026? Like what realistically are we looking at? I mean, you guys talk to your lifters. What do you think?
I mean, I won't be one to say that USAPL, like, I firmly don't believe that USAPL is going, is going away
No, not as an organization.
anytime soon, right? And I think I mean, it really starts with the meet directors when it comes to like where the direction of the federation is going to, right? Because at the end of the day, right, people are just wanting to compete, right? So if there's no meets around, people are just going to sign up to whatever's nearby, right? Because again, it goes back to like when Powerlifting America first started, right? People would have to travel or go out of their way to find a meet, right? Now that we have meets in the region, people aren't having to do that, right? And I think that's what it was in USAPL when USAPL was only having B&W Gym being the only gym that hosted meets, right? People would go to Wisconsin, people would go to Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, right, to go compete at these meets, these higher production level meets. And so I feel like that's kind of what's going to happen as we move forward, like 2026, 2025.
Oh, Weilin's buffering again. I know he's bringing his. Weilin's bringing. You're bringing most of your rosters coming, right? So, I think it also depends on the coaches too. It depends on a lot of different factors. I think also people want to compete with their friends. So this is something I was talking to someone on the EC of the USAPL, and because I argue with everyone on the internet now. It's kind of my thing. I've become a troll. And he was like, he's like, nothing's gonna happen, blah blah blah. The local people are something to local people. I'm like, dude, people want to lift with their friends, and I guarantee you, inside of your friend group, and inside of like my local gym group, like a handful of those people are gonna be national level competitors, and they're not gonna want to go to the second of the best nationals. So what's gonna happen is those people are going to go to PA for nationals, and then the rest of their friends are going to follow. Like it is a domino effect. Like you have to like I don't know why people don't understand that. Like I remember the first state meet I ran at the new MPG, and I remember everyone saying, "I'm just here to take Sebastian's money." All right. You're gonna have some competition. You might take some of my money, but I think that there's a couple people on the radar there, RJ. Sorry, what was I talking about? I don't remember. We're talking about switching to USAPL. Yeah, people in their friend groups are going to switch. The first state meet I ran at the new MPG, I remember Pinoy Poldo's and Donato go, yeah, everyone's going to follow. Like everyone, when we heard about this meet, it was hype. Everyone wanted to sign up. And so I think it's just a trendy thing. It's like, what are people doing? What's the trend? Right? Everyone's doing MPG Madness now. That's kind of the trend. I think a lot of people are going to want to do the state meet too because of that. Like it all kind of goes kind of where the trend is, as far as that goes. I don't know what are you guys seeing as far as like Illinois goes.
Yeah, so if we look back years, or it was like half USPA and half USAPL, right? And I think
Oh, right, you're
what
going way back.
yeah, we're going way back. So what happened to USPA? It formed WRPF and WRPF formed PLU. And obviously, most of these are very like meet directors, like led. Right? If 5, 10 meet directors flood one federation, all the other like meet directors don't flood the other federation, right? So now if we look at the Chicago scene or Illinois scene, right, we still have majority of the meet directors at USPL, and that's completely fine, right? But as we can see, all the not fill them as fast as because there's some meet directors that left fast, like he a year ago, and now Kevin hosting like a PLA meet down at Fighting Park down in Lockout, right? Basically, the more meet directors involved in the, it's gonna be able to draw local scene from local neighborhoods, and I think that's gonna be like a tribute to the spread between 30% to 50%, and now be 50-50 probably next year as far as like USAPL and PLA goes.
Yeah, I mean, right now it is almost exact. Thanks to Kevin's meet. Thank you, Kevin. It is over 50-50 RPA now. In total number of entries. I don't count Southern Illinois. That's like basically St. Louis. It doesn't count. So I do expect a lot. I mean, obviously you've heard the whispers. You've talked to people who were USAPL who are coming over. Like, I think we know that there's a general trend that direction. I think the colleges are pretty going to stay USAPL for quite a while. I don't really see that changing. There is a thing that may be happening that may change all that, but that is going to that's behind the scenes. But I mean, if the collegiate level is actually the biggest demographic, so until that changes, we're going to have it's going to be squarely USAPL, right? If you're collegiate, you're going to CNATs. Like, I would too. I wouldn't unless you're a world level competitor, I wouldn't for 1 second ask you to switch to PA and not go to CNATs. Like, I mean, Kevin, that was your big thing too, right? Did you end up going to CNATs?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I would never give up that experience. You only get to do that once. I would never ask anyone to give that up. Now, does PA need to do a better job and build something better? Absolutely, on the college level. But I think until that happens, I'm not going to ask people to act against their own interest. That's
I
not
think
why we do.
I think since you talked about like the collegiate scene, I think it's important to note. So last month I traveled to Kansas City. I visited Ottawa University, right? And so they actually had a qualifier meet for their university team in Powerlifting America. And so I think that's a prime example on like what some of these college teams are doing to kind of shift their whole rosters over to Powerlifting America, right? So they literally hosted a meet in their own college, right, to qualify all of their lifters to go to Powerlifting America, right? So like as we see some of these teams kind of fully transition their rosters over to PA, right, we're gonna see that kind of hole, that gap that is that'll happen at CNETs that will be present at PA Nets, right? So I mean, I think it's a start, right? But little by little, right, some of these teams are going to shift their entire rosters over, right?
I mean, I don't want to get too much into the weeds on that because I actually am kind of involved in the college scene somehow. But unless Midland switches, it's going to be really hard. Once Midland switches, it'll be over. But like that's kind of the big. It's like Alabama. If for those who don't know, if it's like Alabama in football, like we would like they're the Alabama of powerlifting. Like we would need them to switch in order for that transition to take place. And I do like what you're saying. Like Greenville University, they're full PA. They're in Southern Illinois. I actually went down and helped them with their meet. They did the exact same thing. So yeah, I think there's something to be said about that. I think obviously we're all really entrenched with colleges, with UIC, their team, and you with DePaul. So I think there's some potential. I think we need to do like a university meet of some kind. I think that'd be fun. The teams all against each other. Let me go. What other topic did I want to talk about? All right, so we were touched basically on that October, and then after 2022, we're into 2023. Lifting in a Winter Wonderland. This is a meet that me and Michael Calatapetro directed at Surge. This was my first experience. This was my first experience directing a meet not at my own gym. I will never do that again for any number of reasons. It's just not. It doesn't make economic sense to run at other people's gyms. It's logistically very difficult to run meets at other people's gyms. Moving equipment is one of the biggest pains. It would be something I would probably never ever do again. You guys were both at that meet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of also ushered in. That was like the first meet that like sold out like almost immediately. That one was also like pulling teeth to run because who was the state chair that like messed everything up? What was his name? From CBC.
Lawrence?
Yes, Lawrence. We had a CrossFit guy who was running Illinois for a second. Do you guys ever have to deal with him? No? Okay, that was one of the USAPL's foibles. They just let anyone. So there was no state chair in Illinois, and so they just let the first guy who asked become the state chair, which I thought which I think is just as symptomatic of all the different things and different issues that came up with powerlifting in Illinois. But yeah, did you like Waylon? Did you like that meet, the first surge one, the lifting in the winter? I'm sure you had a bunch of athletes there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So obviously, coming from the first barbell and barbecue meet, hosted by Michael, we had a great experience, and I knew that anything hosted by Michael would be another big one because like after hosting 120 people, like okay, the next week they don't host, it's probably be another step up, and because it was one of the like, was it the first USAPL meet at Surge?
Yeah.
Yes, that was
Okay,
the first.
it was the first USAPL at Surge, and Surge was mostly known as USPA, and so it was like a new experience and new venue for people, and I think that after competing so many times at B&W, people look forward to MPG. And now being the first time at church, I like to look forward to that too. And so it was definitely like a new atmosphere and new environment. I think that's some people that really look forward to, like being the same thread, but being able to compete at different venues, meet different people, and it's like basically traveling the United States without having to travel and pay for your plane ticket.
Yeah, no, I had no, I mean, as a meet director, that meet was incredibly stressful. That's all I remember about it. But it was a step up. So the old MPG was not a great facility for meets. It was not a proper facility for meets. So moving into a facility that is a little better for meets was great. Because old MP, so actually there was a question earlier I wanted to answer. I think he was asking this. Oh, Adrian asked this question, and and I was like, that's not really a question Adrian would ask, but he goes, "Hey Sebastian, what was your favorite meet to direct and run?" I know he was asking that kind of as a joke, but like my favorite meet to run was the first Barbells and Barbecue because there were 300 people in one room together screaming at a meet. I've never been able to replicate that, never, because we just don't do 60 lifter sessions anymore. There's just no way to replicate that. That atmosphere was insane. Aiden Raider, Jackie Molater was lifting. That was Matthias Cash, one best lifter. That was a good one. But yeah, it was great to get a meet at a better venue. Back to the lifting in a Winter Wonderland. It was great to get a meet at the venue. Um, we were pretty happy with that. That kind of did open the door to other things that I'm not too happy with, but it is what it is. Next one was Shamrock the Compound. I ran that one. It was a smaller meet, but actually one was really fun at CBC in Chicago. Again, another reason I'll never do a meet at another place. It's just too much equipment to move. So it wasn't. There's a meet missing from this calendar.
What's the
The,
champion the next year?
yeah, it's the Illinois. That meet is not on the database. I wonder if that was the meet where they had all those issues. So this is the lore story right here. So I'm running the Illinois, or I don't think it was this one. Yeah, Barbells and Barbecue was the original one. Was crazy. We're gonna have to find. You know what I want to do? We could do that, but we'd have to do it 2 platforms. That would be cool. Maybe we do a 2 platform just so we can have a crazy crowd. We might have to do that. That would be the only way to make it practical. We can't do, like I said, we can't do 60 lifts twice anymore. Yeah, so the meet that's not on here, and I wonder if that was the meet that had that issue. So we had all kinds of issues with the scale at that meet because it was supposed to be a certified scale. So I paid like $500 to get this scale certified so that one person could break a national record, which I'm happy to do. Whatever, it's whatever. It's part of the experience of a state meet then. I paid for 3 refs to fly in because I don't think Kevin was a national ref. We had no national referees. I had to fly 3 referees in. I paid them each $750. And the I never got a record form from the USAPL that I needed to fill out to do that. And I'll just never forget trying to get that form from them was insane. So maybe that's why this isn't on here. Yeah, it wasn't. So 750 is not that bad for 4 sessions. So you're looking at like for 4 sessions that's $400 plus $350 for travel. You're talking about flying people in. Should I answer this question? How do you all feel about majority of athletes wanting to switch feds recently as a director, as a coach standpoint? So not to go too far on a tangent.
We could probably
Right
talk
now,
about that at the end, since we're talking about like the future, like at the end. So
yes, good. Thank you for keeping me on topic, Kevin, because I would go off on that one. But I think we could definitely talk about that's like maybe we'll scroll back and answer the questions like at the end. There we go. Okay, so yeah, that was the first thing. That was the first meet at the new MPG. So I was that was crazy. Running a meet like that at the new venue, there were a lot of things to like. There are a lot of things in a new facility you don't expect and stuff. And I think it was because it was a state meet, and there were so many things having national refs and like people trying to break national records and stuff, and that was pretty chaotic. But how do you guys like? Would you guys like to see the ability to break national records at state meets come to PA, or do you think that's something that we even need?
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of like what it's the stepping stone, right? Like you do your local meets, and your state championship should be that opportunity to allow lifters to kind of break national records. I think that's really kind of how it's been kind of forever in a sense, right? Like, I think even though it might come at a cost from the meet director to be able to kind of provide that facility to have the referees there, but I mean, I guess it does provide lifters with that next level. Like I guess it differentiates the meet from a state level meet from a local meet. So yeah.
Right, because how I'm differentiating it is I'm just putting a ton of money into it. Like that's what I'm doing to make it somewhat different. There really isn't any sort of distinction from a local. There isn't any aside from what I put into it. So I would also agree. And I don't mind spending more on stuff like that if it actually gets something tangible. I think right now I just think PA doesn't want national records being broken without like a little. I wouldn't say more infrastructure, but without a bit more systems in place. I
Mhm.
think
Yeah, which
that would
makes
be
sense.
yeah. I just don't think they want like me affecting chipping at nationals, right? Because that's what that would affect. It would affect the lifter's ability to chip, and it could potentially cause some problems. So, not that that's the biggest issue, but yeah. All right. The next meet was actually 1 month later. So this situation right here that we're about to talk about, and I want to kind of talk about is what the demand for meets in Illinois actually was, and I'm wondering if we can get back to that because for those of you who don't know, the demand for meets in Illinois was way bigger than the supply in 2023. That was last year. It was way bigger. So the reason I know that is because we sold 120 entries in June, and we sold 150 entries the following month and did a 3-day meet. There was clearly this massive demand that was not being met. And so this is where all my problems started because we were running this 3-day meet, and people were on a wait list for that meet. I just didn't have enough referees to do this, and so all the issues kind of started for me. And the reason I transitioned federations was Kevin, you did your meet in October, the Chi-Town Show. Your meet sold out, right? It was done. It was sold out. And so I'm like, well, we should probably run another meet, right? Like, that's the logical thing to do, right? And so I was like, your meat sold out, and pretty early too. There was a huge demand for it. And this is when all the politics basically started. And so I basically decided I don't want to. I think we're past that, but I kind of people are still might be interested in the story. But basically, they didn't want me to run a meet, and so my issue was I said, okay, you need to tell me why, right? You can't just say there's another meet. Like there's clearly a demand for meets. You need to explain this. No response from the national office. I followed up again, no response. And like at that point, you really don't have any choice. Like I have to move on. Like I'm
Yeah.
not getting a meet sanction. I'm not getting to meet sanctions, so I might as well I have to move on. I explored some options. I was going to start my own little organization, and then PA ended up reaching out to me. And so for those of you, Kevin, you know Luke and Mike, and so the people who I actually talked to a real person, right? And I know that's like kind of a stupid reason to do something, but like they really cared. Like this was like when they were like fighting and clawing to like build the organization. the things they were talking about, the things they wanted to do, the things, they really had like a plan I could see, right? I'd love to see them do more of that now, but like it felt like they really like were working hard, and I just felt like the USAPL could care less. They're like 6 weeks to get your art week approved. Like I just felt like they could care less. I feel like it's just you get a bit of more of a hands-on type thing. So that basically sold me, and they were going to let me, for obvious reason, they were going to let me do as many meets as I wanted to do. Because if I'm the only director, they're going to let me do what I want. So that's kind of the where everything kind of transitioned for me. I know you were still doing USAPL stuff. When did you first, or Kevin, when did you first decide like, hey, this is the time to, like, who convinced you? What was the situation where you finally wanted to switch?
I guess for me, it was more so just kind of envisioning that, seeing that kind of like what was taking place at Classic Open Nationals in 2024, right? That kind of was a turning point for me. It's kind of like want to start doing getting more involved in PA on like the later end of 2024, right? So my last meet USAPL was this year, was the Deep Dish Classic, right? So that was in April of this year. So that was kind of like when I decided, okay, I want to get involved in a little bit more of PA, right? Becoming a PA referee, and then just kind of move forward with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they really put a lot into Open Nationals on the social media side. That just made everyone go. Speaking of back to what you said earlier about social media, like the way I was at I was at Classic Nationals. The way they made it look on social media was incredible. It was
Mm-hmm.
not that cool in person. I promise. Like it was great. It was great. It was cool to see all the top athletes. It was not that good in person. But what they did to make the perception they gave to that event was spectacular. The interviews, like the whole ecosystem they did, really I think changed that I think that was probably the turning point when everyone was like, yeah, it's probably time for, you know, everything to transition on over. How about you, Weilin? What was your? I think is this your first year? This is like this is probably your turning point, right? Coming up here in March.
Yeah, I mean, I got my kid last weekend because at your but for me, I've always watched both federations from a spectator, a lifter, and a coaching perspective, right? Like I've compared like both products, how both organizations are handling days, and obviously as like athletes of the sport, whether it is for fun or not, you want to become the best at what you do. And watching like the Pro Series from USAPL and watching like nationals from PA, watching like Sheffield, all those events, like you can tell who care more about top athletes because eyeball at this is where the money's at, and watching how like you Pro Series, like so like not organized, seeing how organized P was, how organized SBD was. It was like the biggest coach to hey, like, tell my lifter, hey guys, like this, like probably go a lot farther than you think. It's not just about going to Walmart, becoming a national champion. That's it, right? You can go PA, do a local meet, do a state meet, do a national level meet, and have a chance to go to Sheffield, have a chance to go to North Americans, and have lots of opportunities. It's about opportunities, right? Like I want my lifter, and for that to happen, hey, here are the options you have, whether to be at the highest level or have a chance to win.
Right. I mean, I talk about this analogy with my gym a lot, and like because people don't understand like oh, I'm just a local lifter. It doesn't matter what happens at nationals. So I have 200-pound dumbbells at my gym, right? Like maybe 5 people have ever used them. But what happens is when you walk in there as like a 15, 16-year-old and you see those 200-pound dumbbells, it's about what you can do, right? It's about people envision that when they see stuff like that. They go, I can potentially someday lift those 200-pound dumbbells. It's the same thing. You want to be part, if the organizations are the same on the local level or roughly the same, then the only thing that's going to be different is that national and world level. And I think I don't want to crack on the USAPL too much, but I think they just missed that. I mean, I as a kid, when I was playing hockey in my backyard, thought about winning the Stanley Cup.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was the biggest turning point for me, and kind of one of the biggest things that made me want to get more involved in Powerlifting America was kind of the association with the top talent, right? Like if you can say you're, I guess you have more metrics to compare yourself to those who are competing at the top level because the weight classes are the same. A lot of the times now we have
That's
discrepancies in the
interesting.
rule book between USAPL and Powerlifting America, right? Because those little discrepancies of the technical rules, right? That might be like some of the ways like people can compare themselves between like, oh, like me and some people who are at the top of the 74 kilo class, right? And I feel like even at the IPF level, right? Even at the global level, right? A lot of these international lifters don't recognize USA powerlifting totals as being comparable to theirs, competing in the IPF stage or even in their home federations. And I think for people to see that if you're involved in Powerlifting America, you can kind of envision, you can kind of see yourself on that stage, even if you aren't there yet, right? Just kind of use that as a motivating factor. I think that goes a long way for the athletes.
Yeah, that's actually a great take. I've actually never even thought about that because I don't think from a lifter's perspective. But it's really actually I might actually use that argument with people. It's like if you can give yourself a relative ranking of where you are much better in PA than you can in USAPL because it's a standardized rule book. It's the rules the top lifters use. Like it's hard for you to compare yourself as a 75 who doesn't have bench depth, who, I wouldn't say I say the judging is pretty much the same, but I love that take. That it's just like it's easier for you to compare yourself to the top people, even though you may not be a top lifter. It's just a better way for me to perceive things. So I really like that. Um, any thoughts on that, Waylon?
Yeah, absolutely. I think someone who was a victim of that was Austin Perkins. A lot of people was not acknowledging what he did nationals as a 75 kilos, and then, oh, I want you to do it at a PA meet or an IPF meet where you weigh in at at 74 kilos, right? The having it's like now that USAPL want to change like the dot system where they want to create like their own dots. It's even hard to compare like against the rest of the world with dots with like good lift points. I think that going to the wrong direction, and I feel like you can't just be stuck up in your own nation. Like you have to compare yourself with the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all. I mean, we all in kind of agreement on that. I don't think anyone disagrees that where the winds are blowing right now. I think we all know where the wind's blowing. The question is like, are you like? I literally I made fun of a lifter this weekend. He's still in the USAPL, and I go, what are your? I go like, what are your goals as a lifter? He's pretty good. He's pretty good. I'm like, what are your goals as a lifter? He's like, well, and then he kind of knew he trapped himself. He goes, well, I want to be the best, and I'm like, well, then you have to compete against the best, bro. Like you can't keep playing around there. And I talk to this lifter quite often, and I'm like you're 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 talking like not being strong enough to go to PA is not a good reason, right? Like you should come over and you should chase those people. You don't need to stay somewhere else. Um, to to beat and train against the best. Um, but yeah, so I guess that was kind of we did a recap of where we were. Now I want to talk a little bit about where we're at. So like, and I think where we're at kind of more transitions into where we're going, right? I mean, where we're at is kind of almost less relevant than where we were. It's like where are we at, and then where would you see things go? Like specifically in Illinois, I think we don't have a lot. We can basically the three of us right here can control a lot of what goes on in Illinois, and that's why this is kind of cool. But like nationally, we can't really do too much. Like, what do you want to see in Illinois? Like, what do you like? Like, what ideas do you have? Like, what do you think, Kevin? You want to go?
I think being able to just kind of provide quality experiences to lifters just goes a long way. Just being able to kind of get meets out there, make them high production value meets. I think what stands out and what makes Powerlifting America kind of stand out, especially like when you're talking about like these national level meets, comparing those to like what the USAPL currently has, which is like like the Arnold, the Pro Series, and Nationals, right, is the production value that you're giving to these lifters, right? Like I think some of these top lifters, they even said that this was the first time when they competed at Classic Open Nationals when they truly felt like athletes and they were valued and like athletes that they are, right? So if we can bring that level and of appreciation for the lifters kind of down to the local level where we can just kind of like highlight the local talent, right? Being able to kind of just provide that high value meets beyond just being, oh, we're a federation associated with IPF, right? Because that might not be enough, right? That might not be enough for these lifters, right? A lot of the times people think and attribute the USAPL with being this high production value meets because they see what they do at nationals, right? But if we can bring that and scale back down to these local meets, right? People are going to say, hey, Powerlifting America is doing just the same thing and they're affiliated with the IPF and they have all these things kind of going for them. Then that's kind of what's going to cause that switch. Because now we're not just a federation that's associated with the IPF. We're now a federation that actually cares about the lifters and highlights the talent that we have in our like local community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely. Like Kevin mentioned earlier, like hosting meet that have high production and high value and care about the lifting experience. As you mentioned earlier, like you don't have to go to nationals to feel like an athlete. You can feel like an athlete at a local meet, at a state meet, and something that we can do after 2025 is like we can line up a local qualifying meet for the state championship and then getting lifters even ready for nationals. It's like that process, similar to how if you bring railroads, you go to World Games, you go to Sheffield, basically like giving people options and giving them an opportunity to feel like an athlete, right? I think that's something that is missing on in many federations. Like you don't feel an athlete unless you get to like American Pro, Sheffield, Nationals, right? Why can you feel an athlete at a local meet, state meet, and then to the higher meets?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'm ready to deliver on everything you guys just asked for. So, I'll kind of give everyone a glimpse of what kind of some of the things, some of these things I'm going to talk about shortly are theories. They're just ideas. Some of these things I'm definitely going to do. So I wanted to do a really, I want to make the state meet more of a, I don't want it to be about MPG, right? It's at MPG. That's great. I want it to be about, like, I don't want people to feel like I'm using the state meet in particular to try and make money. And I'm the first people to say that I direct meets to make money, 100%. And I direct meets to make money. I do take most of what I make and I put it back in. And that's why our meets have grown and grown and grown. But I wanted the state meet to be something where everyone could kind of contribute and help because they knew that no one was really making any money. So if you guys didn't notice, $150 of the $155 entry goes into the prize pool. The only reason the extra $5 is going to go to credit card processing, I'm probably going to take a loss because I still got to buy medals. I still got to buy all this. I still got to spend money on stuff. Where I may make a little money, if I at all, is going to be on VIP ticketing. So we're going to have standard ticketing. It's going to be standard $20, basic. If I make any money at all, it's because I'm going to be selling these VIP tickets. And these VIP tickets are going to have drink tickets. They're going to have food included in a seat. So basically, if you don't want to spend that money, you don't have to. And you don't really get anything. You will get extra stuff for that. But I'm not changing anything other than adding one variable in. And that's going to be a really good variable too. We're gonna have a drink truck, we're gonna have a food truck and stuff like that. So I really wanted to create something that was really, really cool that like was a big community event. So we're gonna have like picnic tables outside, we're gonna have live music, we're gonna have it's gonna be like an all weekend celebration of powerlifting. And then it's gonna culminate with a primetime session. When you talk about these lifters experience, these are gonna be the best lifters that qualified. These are gonna be the best lifters that qualified in the state of Illinois. I really think it's going to be a good model to set up for the future. One thing, believe it or not, I hate running meets at MPG. I have to tear up the entire facility. I have to, it's just a ton of work. And I don't think it's as good as we can do. I think we can do better. I think we can rent venues. I think we can run meets at better facilities that are built for events. I think MPG is cool for a local meet. and I think I'm going to continue to do really low frills local meets. So meets where you come in, you get to do your lifting, you get to do your work, and then you get to go home. That's not too much. But when I do a production, we're going to be, as soon as I can, I'm moving meets outside of MPG, right? We're all going to go to a nice big venue. We're going to rent a venue with lighting and a stage and stuff, and we're going to really make it a production. Like they're going to be a little more expensive. They're going to be an extra 20, $30 for a meet entry, but they're going to be the best meets you've ever been to, right? They're going to be absolutely spectacular. And I think that's what you can expect maybe this year, but probably in 2026 from what we do. I'm going to do some basic local meets. And I think someone mentioned something about higher production. And I think I want to go two directions. I want to do local meets that are higher production, that are the highest level of production. And then I want to do local meets that are lower production. I want to do local meets where you come in and you can just hang out. I want to do local meets where I don't have to charge, $175 for it to keep up with all the production. I want to meet where people can come in, have a good time. Maybe it's your first meet. If you got to pay $150 for your first meet, that's a little steep. Like that's a little bit of a barrier. I kind of want to see more low frills, local stuff. I want to see local meets that are more fun, and then I want to see even higher. I want to see how crazy of a meet we can run. Like, how insane can that meet be? How good are the venue? How good can the lights and the intro show be? Like, that's what I want to kind of push for maybe late 2025 into 2026. That's what I think you can expect the future of what we do. I want to do more team stuff. I think the team trophy is going to be the coolest part of the state meet. I think everyone fighting over that thing is going to be so. The trophy is sick. I actually have it. I'm not going to show it just yet. I have the trophy, and it's sick. And once I finish the customization, it's going to be even sicker. But like everyone's going to want a piece of this trophy. Like every coach, every group of 5 guys is going to want a piece of this. And I think it's just a good way to add something for the lifters who aren't going to be in that top 12 prime time. Everyone's going to have a chance to contribute, basically. But yeah, anything else on the future you guys want to touch on? Kevin, anything you're planning on doing with your meets?
I think as a meet director, you learn from what you've done in the past, and you just continue to make your events better, right? And one of the things that I really like is that because I've gotten involved in many different facets, right? As a referee, as a coach, as an athlete, right? And traveling and doing all that stuff, I guess I get to take parts of what people do right, what people don't do as well, and being able to kind of use all the things that I've learned to kind of just continue bringing it back to where I do things.
Yeah, I really like your meets as an example of lower frills. Like you just literally walk in and there's the warm-up room. And then I walk right back to the area, and the crowd there is insane because it's all family. Everyone brings their entire family and they go nuts. Like the music is great. I do like if you talk in terms of atmosphere, your meets are some of the better ones. You'll see, and I love what you said about grabbing things from other places. Instagram is great because I just get to see what people I saw what the Cargills did in Georgia, and I was pissed. I'm like, the fucking Cargills. They rented this crazy area with these projector screens. I don't know if you saw that on my story that I reposted, because me and him talk. We bounce ideas all the time, and I'm like, I have to beat that. Now I'm like, we're not even competitors. We're friends, but I'm like, I got to do better than that. So yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. Taking the best of all the meets, putting it together. Is a really good thing. I'm waiting to see Weilin's meet. Weilin's meet's if it's anything like your gym, I can't wait to see the most Swiss watch run meet I've ever seen.
Yeah, obviously, I've been coaching for the past 2 years, running a gym for the past 2 years, and I'm excited to work with you guys on hosting a meet. Obviously, I've never hosted a meet before, and you guys hosted many meets before, and so it's a great opportunity for me to learn from you guys, see how you guys do things, and I'm studying other meet directors online, and it gives me lots of ideas, and I'm excited to bring a new type of meet to Illinois, something that people have never experienced before, and so that we can all elevate in the sport.
Yeah, no, honestly, I don't. I was like, when you were saying like, oh, learn from me, I'm like, I want to see what you do. I kind of just like, I just want to be like, oh, what's he gonna do? Because obviously, if you guys haven't been to Weilin's facility is like, you can like, I could like perform open heart surgery on the floor. It's like the cleanest gym I've ever seen, and so I'm like, I wonder what he would bring to a meet. So I'm like really excited for that. I think that'll be really really cool. Um, Anything else? I think maybe we'll answer some of those questions, and we can talk a little bit about if you guys don't have anything else. Nope. All right, I guess we'll go to the question. This is the question we skipped. She goes, how do you all feel about a majority of athletes wanting to switch feds recently as a director and as a coach standpoint? I'm going to answer this one because I'm spicy, and then you guys can go. So I right now, Powerlifting America just has the best product, right? They just offer a better opportunity. They offer a path to Sheffield. For me as a meet director, it's a better opportunity because I don't have to deal with the bureaucracy of the USAPL. So, like, I just feel like they're offering a better product. Now, what I don't like is I don't like that the USAPL isn't fighting back, right? Like, they're not competing. They're like, so typically it's good to have lots of organizations, right? Because they all compete. I mean, look at, bring up the city of Chicago. You guys are all having power, like there's like 5 powerlifting gyms now. And you're all going to have to compete for who's going to offer the best product. And that's great. You're all competing. But like, it feels like the USAPL doesn't even want to compete. It feels like the USAPL just goes, we just have more drug testing. And they have their little monocle out. And I just feel like everyone's switching just because the PA is better. If USAPL was actually offering something, I would feel, I would actually be more interested. But right now, it just USAPL is not competing, and so because they're not competing, PA doesn't really have to compete either. So it's really not good for anyone. That's honestly how I feel. I feel like it's not good for anyone because the USAPL is not punching back, and so PA doesn't have to get any better, and so it's not good for anyone. I don't know. Anyone else?
Well, I think the consensus was always it's a question of when you're switching, not if, right? And that's kind of like what everyone talks about. And that's what like people even at our gym talking about, like, oh, when are you switching over, right? That's kind of what the conversation is geared towards. And I think USAPL has really struggled as far as like being I guess defining what their goals and what direction they're kind of taking the federation, whether they want to focus on the pro series, whether they want to focus on nationals, expanding internationally with the IDFPA, right? Like and kind of being able to build an identity from itself beyond just being a leading drug testing federation in like the US, which that's what it was. And I think PA has really taken the initiative with being very innovative as far as like the way they market their meets, the way they go about live streams, the way they go about like being able to highlight their athletes, the way they go about like having meets like SBD Sheffield, right? Like having meets like these huge successful meets that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, no, and then like just to bounce off your thing again, I just feel like it's like the USAPL has no response. Like they can't seem to build their own version of Sheffield, and so it's or they're either unwilling or I don't know what the situation is, but they just don't want to do that, and because they don't want to do that, it's like that's the only thing that really matters right now. But yeah, Weilin, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, so from a coaching perspective, how I feel about this is it really makes my life easier because this past year I've been to like USAPL Nationals, I've been to American Pro, I've been to so many like Poly United meets because I have like lifters spread across 3 different federations, and now that the majority of my lifters are transferring to like Poly America, it gives me a path to kind of plan for them to do things together. I obviously have like goal setting right here. You do this local meet, you do the state, and do nationals, and potentially go further and further. So it makes my life easier as a coach, having everyone under like one region, one federation, and so that I can plan out the future for them without having to spread myself thin.
Yeah, I think this was a big. So that's an interesting point because I talk to Powerlifting America, the higher ups quite frequently, the people who actually run the federation, and I'm a little more on the fence now, but I was really big on their need for regionals because I felt like what regionals did for the USAPL was it allowed coaches to have all their athletes at one place at one weekend, and like they would get rooms together and stuff, and they would all hang out, and like I feel like that's kind of what's missing. And like when you say that, it's just codifying my point that like coaches are just as important as athletes when it comes to what a federation is going to do. Because you're saying, hey, it's just way easier to have everyone under one, especially if the federations aren't any different. It's easy just to have everyone under one federation, right? I know Sebastian's got 8-9 meets a year. I know they're going to be accessible. I know they're going to be fine, so we're fine there. They've got nationals. It's already on the schedule. They've got NAPF. It's really easy, done. And so I think, not that any other federation is listening, but other federations probably should get clues from that if they did want to continue to be successful. So yeah, anything else on that? I think that thoroughly answered your question about how we feel about that. Wait. Okay, Powerlifting America makes no good or bad moves. USAPL has good ideas, but doesn't follow through.
No, I guess just to answer that simply, right? Like no product is going to be perfect, right? But like I think to say that Powerlifting America is the better option on all ends is not correct, right? So I guess what we were talking about as meet directors, right? Even as running a federation, you want to take the best elements of every fed that has done in the past, even looking at in history, right? Like what these untested meets have had successes with. Like if we look at like the Kern, if we look at like the Ghost Clash, if we look at the American Pro, right? Like some of these big meets that aren't nationals, that aren't regionals, right? Like some of the good parts about those, and then put those all under the Powerlifting America name.
Yeah, and that's actually, it's interesting you mentioned. I had some other things I want to say, but I'll segue because you mentioned the Ghost Clash, because the Ghost Clash is interesting. I want to get your guys' opinion on this. So the Ghost Clash is very interesting. So I look at everything because I want to like take the best parts, right? Just like you said. The Ghost Clash, they charge $250 an entry. So if you gave me $250 an entry, I would put together the craziest fucking meet you've ever seen in your life. Like I would have literally everything. I would have custom jackets. I would have prize money. I would have a venue. I would have everything you could possibly imagine. So I guess my question is there a mark? Is that something that people want? Like, do people want something like that? I mean, I don't think it needs to be $250, but like, if you're talking about the difference between a $150 meet and a $175 meet being, an extra $5,000, like is there a market for something like that? Is that something people might be interested in? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, so I've been to American Pro twice, and one thing I do realize like, have great production. The entry fees are usually like $250, and I think it's a big draw for like untested lifters and also like high level drug tested lifters, because like they feel very special, right? Because you get to be invite only to be part of prime time. You get to walk on LED lights. You get to walk from a stage all the way down to the platform. It's like, I think with how untested federation one thing is, like they make it as cool as possible for pro athletes, and like it doesn't need to be like a world championship. It doesn't need to be a national level meet, but if it make you feel like an athlete, feel like a pro athlete, make it look cool, I think people would be willing to sign up for that.
If you're telling me you're giving me $250 an entry, I'll put on a meet that'll make the American Pro look like a daisy field. Like, I don't think you guys realize I don't think anyone realizes what you could potentially do with that kind of money. With 120 lifter meet, like you could do some insane things. And so it's something I've been thinking about a while, because I'm like, I could really deliver one of the all-time experiences with something like that, with prize money. I mean, we could do everything basically. So like, I guess that's something maybe I'll try. Maybe I'll experiment with. I've thought about it. Maybe do a one-day meet, rent a venue, Like, what would that have to include? What would your expectation be for $250? What would you expect from that meet?
Yeah, so as of right now, like signing up for a national level meet might cost like $175, $150, right? And you're stuck in like conference room and you're going to like a hotel, right? And so for a meet that pays like $250, like it would have to be a bigger venue, right? It would have to be something that have a stage, lots of lights,
Yes.
lots of lights, lots of production, something that big like I mean, as a local lifter who might not qualify for prime time, like you want to experience the same thing that prime time people do, right? And having a good, obviously, a good commentary works really well. Good commentary, and also like everyone that signs up, they get custom stuff like custom medal, custom jacket, custom shirts, so that they can actually feel. I mean, like most people have like jerseys, right? Why not give everyone who attend to be a jersey, right? Why not give them a T-shirt, have a name on the back, and make them feel a little special that they're competing. I think like small things like that, having lots of like memorable, lots of stuff that they can buy at the meet, having a big booth, having lots of like merchandise and stuff like that can basically justify how much you're paying.
Right. So I mean, the reason I'm like kind of like a little like awestruck about it is like I'm doing all that for this state meet, and I'm putting all the entry, and I'm charging 150 entry, and I'm putting it all back. So you're telling me you're going to give me an extra $100 per person? It'd be the craziest thing you've ever seen. Like I guess I wonder where the money goes when it comes to something like that. That's my question, because like that's really what I'm getting at. I'm like I just don't know where the money goes for something like that. I mean, I think I heard a podcast. The director said like the venue costs a bunch of money, and they rent a bar. So I'm like, the bar should give you the space for free because people are going to be buying booze all day. Like they shouldn't. And that makes no sense to me. But yeah, I mean, I think you can get a pretty nice venue for like 5,000 to 7,000 with everything included. That's like security and all this. There's like a bunch of like little things. You gotta have a lighting tech. You gotta have an audio tech. You gotta have all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we may have to give that a little
Yeah,
go.
I don't know if you guys remember, but before Cooperative Strength shut down, they were planning to host a meet inside a stadium with like 5,000 people.
Well, they were gonna do it. Was it 4 platforms? It was like a 200 lifter meet.
Yeah,
Interesting. I don't know if I want to. So I mean, obviously that's one way to get money, right? That's one way to get like entry. That's one way to like get funding for something like that. You're looking at like 150 an entry, and if you're doing 4, they were going to do 4 platforms. Where are they going to get the referees to do that?
yeah, and
I wouldn't even want to do that.
for 5 minutes.
What'd you say?
I believe the meet sold in 5 minutes. I believe.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Right. So what's funny is even if that meet had 250 lifters at 150, it would still be the same amount of money as having like 150 lifters at 250. You just change the numbers on either side.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure they could have run a great one. Yeah, you could have run a great 4 platform 1 day meet with that money. And that doesn't even include ticketing or merch or anything like that. No, I definitely think there's quite a bit of potential if you get the economics side right, if you get the marketing side right. Because obviously the advantage they have is they know it's going to sell out. So like they have a huge marketing infrastructure. They have a market basically, like built in. So that certainly helps for what they want to do. But yeah, I'll have to do something. Even if I have to float it, even if I have to cover the cost myself, we're going to have to do something like that. Interesting. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
It's been a great conversation. Talking to a established meet director and a meet director in Chicago, and I took lots of takeaways, and I'm excited to continue growing along you guys, and be ready to stay up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see you this weekend at Weilin's got a grand opening, 5W brand. Dude, how crazy is it going to be there? I was just thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna have to get there at like 9-8 because I'm gonna try and just stop by like briefly because I gotta go back. I have to go run my own. So I wanted to go, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be nuts. Do you have big scissors? Do you have a big pair of scissors?
Yeah, we got big pair of scissors, and so the
Hey,
game plan is
big.
host a ribbon cutting and reception from 11 to 12 strictly with no lifting, and then after that we're gonna open the gym to people that wants to pay for a day pass and work out over there. But it's gonna be a great day, full of a lot of great people, and we hope to just introduce our gym to the public for the first time and have fun together.
Yeah, check it out. It's a really nice, beautiful space. It's immaculate. Some would say too nice. The nicest. It's got to be the nicest powerlifting gym. Got to be. Would you say, Kevin? I can't think. I'm trying. I've been to a lot of them.
I feel like, yeah, it's definitely got a really clean aesthetic and something that I haven't seen in as far as like a powerlifting specific facility. It definitely stands out as far as the cleanliness of it.
I'm actually pissed. Someone compared your space to mine, and I was like, "Come on, that's not fair. That's not fair."
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, I gotta renovate our whole powerlifting room. I'm like, fine. See, even we're not even competitors, and I'm like, oh, I gotta like renovate this thing. Like, we're not even close to each other. All right. But anyway, thank you guys. What's that?
It was a good conversation. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming on. I mean, we'll see each other throughout the year. I'll be at all your guys' meets and stuff. But again, thank you guys all for coming on. This will be uploaded right immediately following this on the Instagram, and then Brendan will upload it onto all podcasting platforms tonight or tomorrow. And then look out, he's going to put some reels together for us as well.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you.